I thought I'd do something a bit different this time. I've been feeling a little bit uninterested with my art, so I've started just drawing things that particularly make me happy, I suppose. In this case, I happened to catch Scooby Doo and the Witch's Ghost. It was on like a YouTube live stream or something. And I was just really tempted to draw the pumpkin monsters from that, so I picked up a harvest palette for this. Now, the original pumpkins are fairly simple in texture, and this was because, they had to animate it, and, it's just not a good idea to put too much detail into certain animated things. So I wanted to make one that I preferred. I'm not going to be animating this, so I just did what I wanted. So I was looking at more lumpy looking pumpkins because I just think they're more interesting looking, and that's what I based my pumpkin monster that I'm about to draw on. Now, the original monsters, as you saw, had green stems still, green in general, because they were fresh pumpkins that weren't really picked from a pumpkin patch yet. I wanted one that was already carved into a jack-o'-lantern because I wanted its face lit up. Halloween has actually, always been my favorite holiday. In general, like late September and then through October's usually been my favorite time of year, although we've had a few really cold and rainy Halloweens here and there, but I really like the changing of the leaves and, well, in general, it's just anything autumn or fall related, it's just been a joy. Like, summer's too hot, winter's too cold, and then there's snow in the winter, and then the summer, sometimes you can't even spend time outside anymore because it's just so darn hot. But the fall is, yeah, sure, it gets down to 30 degrees at night sometimes, but it's just so much more pleasant. By the way, I definitely drew the tendrils or vines way too thick at the start, but I kind of sculpted them to the look that I want in the long run. It'll come together, just trust me. When doing these things, I just kind of like to block out what I want real fast. It's kind of like a sketch in a way. It can be a little difficult to sketch, at least for me, with pixel art. I do think some people manage to do it just fine. For me, it's hit or miss. Actually, when I do use a sketch for a sprite, I typically go to Krita and I sketch in there, and then I shrink it way down to approximately the size I want, and then start pixeling over that. The leaves cannot seem to fall off the trees fast enough for my kids. And on that note, if you all want to see more fireflies or lightning bugs, depending upon where you live, leave the leaf litter around your yard. They live there as the larval stage, and they need that to survive. So, rake them someplace off the side of your yard. Don't burn them. They're good for the environment. Since I've moved to the house that I'm in now, the first year, we didn't see very many fireflies. And we were pretty disappointed, actually. Or at least my kids definitely were, but I like seeing them too, Well, since we moved in, we typically leave the leaf litter to lay. We don't like, doing things with it. However, where we live, they like to complain about it, the city. They've also complained about our grass getting too high. I don't know. They find a random piece of grass. I don't have grass. It's more so a combination of purple nettle and clover, and there is some grass in there. It's just a bunch of various different kinds of plants in my yard. But that being said, they come and they say that it's over 7 inches and yada yada. It really isn't that bad. But they want us to mow it more often than we want to, but I pretty much just wait till they yell at us to mow it, because that's also good for fireflies. Right, so after that tangent, let's get back to the art. You can see that I erased the legs, and I wanted more of a curly look for the vines or tendrils, if you will, like the screenshot that I had showed earlier. I think it's a lot more interesting than just having, little wiggly bits just kind of, I don't know, hanging out. When they get a little more swirly and snaky, they're just more fun to look at. And then after that, I started working on the face. I wanted this pumpkin to have a bit of an attitude, or at least to look kind of wicked, so I went with a crooked smile for this guy. And I wanted the teeth to be more interesting, but there's only so much detail I can put in there, so I just kind of implied they had sharp teeth. I think it looks pretty nice in the long run. Sometimes I like to lean into semi-realism with this stuff, but I did lean more towards more cartoony, but also, I'm not sure how to describe it actually. Just keep following along and you'll kind of see what I'm saying, I hope. I did want to make sure that this character was very expressive because I want him to be fun to look at. So I tried to push the expression as far as I could without going too crazy. Maybe I could have done it further. I don't know. Now I could have left our little guy without a nose, but I felt like it could have filled in a little more space there, so I threw one on there. I won't be showing any of my reference images here because of possible copyright issues. But usually I use pexels.com, that's Pexels.com. Not sponsored, by the way, or anything like that. But I usually use that website for my references, but I couldn't find any pumpkins that I particularly liked for that. So I just Googled lumpy pumpkins and just kind of generally got an idea of what they looked like and pretty much made it up on the spot after that. So, Halloween, about every year I dress up as like a general witch character. I just find whatever witch hat makes me happy. I did have a nice purple one with a black veil. We got a new German Shepherd mix puppy, and she destroyed that somehow. So, I'm not sure what I'm doing this year. Might find a cheaper witch hat. But what are you guys doing for Halloween, if anything? What do you usually dress up as, or what did you used to dress up as? At one point in the past, I used to prefer more scary costumes. I had a jester with a skull face at one point, a werewolf costume that didn't fit me right because it was made for somebody with a stronger jaw, I suppose. It just did not work out for me, but I still really liked it. These days I can't really do a mask because I have two kids to keep an eye on, and while I do trust that my kids will be very safe walking around and very careful, other people sometimes can't be trusted with their cars and whatnot, so it's one of those better safe than sorry kind of situations. So I added the outline to help it pop from the background. I really didn't have a lot of plans to change the background. I just wanted to work on this character for the most part. And it also helps me define a little bit more of things like on the stem, for example. And I am using it for shading a little bit here and there too. I am experimenting here with the stem a little bit just to see what I liked, and I wasn't sure the extra thick outline, so to speak, around there was the right choice. It was kind of like wanting it to be more of a shadow there, but I ended up erasing it. I wanted to add some little, I guess, bumps or nodules to the vines itself just to give it something a little bit more interesting to look at. So they really look more like swirls, I guess, but I still think they're pretty fun looking. And real quick, by the way, feel free to drop your favorite Scooby-Doo movie or your favorite Scooby-Doo series down below in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. sometimes fine-tuning the shapes on everything can be a little tedious and time-consuming, but I promise it's worth it in the long run. It makes it look a lot nicer. Now, when it comes down to the shading, I don't think I go too crazy with it. I just add what I feel like I need just to add the depth to it and just to provide, again, something interesting to look at. I also very deliberately picked a warmer shade to use for the shadows on the vines because I just thought it looked nicer that way. I could have went with a darker green probably, but I kind of like the warm brown that I have going here instead. By the way, if you guys do make your own custom pixel art, pumpkin monster here, I'm on like Blue Sky and whatnot. I'll link it in the description. Feel free to tag me because I'd like to see how you made yours. Did you make yours exactly like mine? Did you make it different? Did you base it on a totally different pumpkin? Show it off. Even way after the fact that I've got this done, I'm still not really sure about that little triangle on the bottom left there that's on the leg. It's a little too sharp of an angle, but I really didn't like anything else I did with it, so I guess it just stayed. It's at this point that I realize that I would have liked to have more shadow on the bottom of the pumpkin there, so I'm darkening the rib lines so I can add the darker color in without, making them disappear. And then of course we're going to add some little shadows underneath the lumps just to make them pop out a little bit more. And maybe some depth to the eyes to make them stand out a bit more. Why not, right? looking at it a little bit, I decided that I wanted to push the shading a little bit further, and I do think that it makes it look extra interesting and whatnot in the long run. So I'm glad I did that. From here, it's just adding more depth to the shading, and then gonna thicken up the eyebrows, and of course we forgot to shade the stem at the top. We gotta take care of that too. Anyway, I hope you all have a safe and happy Halloween. Take care of yourselves out there, and don't eat too much candy. It can make you sick. Or just eat all the candy. I mean, I can't stop you, right? Take care.